Okay, here's my entry for Whirligig Wars 2019. I will take a couple of minutes of it in action, and at the end I'll describe some of the design choices I made as well as some of the problems I ran into. I am driving it with a fan on low because there's just no wind here today. It is double-sided, same design on both sides. So when I cut these out, I figured it was just as easy to stack two pieces of plywood, cut two at the same time. And I painted them before I put them all together. I really should have gotten the mechanism to work before I painted them. And at first, the slot was too narrow, and when I went to push Charlie Brown in the slot, I broke him. And he was a little hard to glue together, so before I used this one, I actually drilled a 1/16 inch hole up through his ankle and drove a brass rod up into him to strengthen him a bit. So if I want to make another one, I'm going to have to make another Charlie Brown. Then I had a real hard time getting the mechanism to work. This was my first design for the arms and the football. I was going to put a rod between the football and have it here and just simply push up from the bottom. The problem is that point would have to move up about 2 inches for every rotation. So I made this bar with an inch bend, thinking that it would be a total of 2 inches of movement. The problem was it was too close to the bottom. So when this moved out from the side to side, the force it put on the football was sideways instead of up, and it would bind up. So I thought one way to fix that would be to drop this down maybe about 6 inches, but I really didn't want to do that. I didn't think it would look good. So I wasn't sure what to do, so I set it aside, thinking that I would just think about it for a while. While I was thinking about it, I made this Snoopy in his Sopwith Camel, but he doesn't do anything other than propeller spins. So once I finished him, I came back to this one and decided that I needed to have the distance from the axle to the arm to be longer, to have less of an angle when it went from side to side. And also, this point only moves up and down about 1/2 of an inch when it rotates, whereas the point down at the bottom moves up 2 inches. So because this only moves up and down 1/2 an inch, I could make the axle with just a bend of 1/4 inch in it. And that worked out much better. I was also worried that this mechanism was going to be too heavy because it has 2 footballs. In fact, I weighed this at about 1 ounce. So I redesigned it to have a smaller football. The arms are the same size, and I had only a single, I don't know if you can see that. I put one football thinner between the two arms, and this arm and football mechanism only weighs about 0.3 ounces. I'm not sure how much that matters, but I figured less force it has to push up, the better. And originally I was going to have a third character over here, Snoopy, on his doghouse, just kind of watching the whole thing. But that made the whole thing pretty long, so I didn't do that, and I cut it here, and when I did, it looked rather short, so I added this tail fin to it, although Charlie Brown himself kind of acts as the tail to keep the whirligig in line with the wind. So that's it.